Mayor Shiga, your motion was accept the budget without the indoor track. Budget as presented without the indoor track.
Motion on that already.
We're doing it because we lost
Oh,
the two of them and they couldn't hear the motion and then they did not vote.
Okay.
So we're just adding them back in. So to the previous motion. And my second was it Mr. Murdoch? It was Commissioner Hale. I had a motion, a second, of approving the budget as presented without the indoor track. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Hey,
Yeah, there are two there. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Okay, we will read
8-0 on the Silver's night.
8-0, sorry. The Silvers at the legislature. Okay, so we will return to item E1, which is the indoor track. Yes, can you set us up? What
So
our
I'm
items are?
gonna give you a recommended motion here. Since we approved the budget without the track, I think the action on this item is a motion to decline to award the RFPs today, to give staff and finance committee direction to come back at the June meeting with a proposal where the board wants to approve the RFPs and award them for how the financing will be accounted for. June special meeting,
June 15th.
whenever the June meeting is.
Okay,
Ben,
Okay.
instead of declining, can we do continue? I don't like the word decline. It seems like we're not, I don't know. Gives the
Well, we're
impression.
agendized to award the RFPs, sorry. So
Can
we're
we-
agendized to award the RFPs and we're not doing that, so whatever that language is. We're not refusing them or saying no to them, we're declining to award them today. To be revisited at a future meeting.
Can we just say, can we revisit? And not say.
We're voting to extend the discussion, the meeting, or June.
So we say we're not taking action to award the RFPs today. They'll go through finance and come back to the full board at the June meeting.
Perfect.
That'll be the motion.
okay.
That would be my motion.
That was suggested motion. Mr. Squawka
Second.
is repeating that second motion. Mr. Murdoch, second. Any other discussion? If not, please vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you so much. Okay. We are moving ahead to,
We have inventory leftovers and we'll be putting it out for those.
Oh, yeah.
there's lunch.
Yeah. It might be a long afternoon.
Yeah, we've got a whole bunch with lunch boxes back here for anybody in the audience. Thank you, Mr. Squawka. Moving on to item E3, review presentation, discussion and possible action to approve the award to request RFP 2023 for the Reno Sparks Convention and Visitors Authority Executive Search Firm. So first up, to present their RFP is Andrea Bricka, with managing partner of DHR Global. And thank you for being so patient and sitting through a lot of business. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. Andrea Bricka with DHR Global. I have some colleagues that are joining via Zoom. So I guess they're gonna zoom in here in any moment. One I do believe had to head from the airport in Dubai. So we'll be in a car of some sort. But they should be zooming in. So I wanted to really start out and say, there were hard copies. My one colleague will screen share, but we really want to give you the key takeaways and then really find out from you what's important to you and answer your questions. Again, there's a presentation. We don't really want to go slide by slide unless you really want us to. But we really want to talk about from a high level, what we have to offer for you as an executive search firm, a global executive search firm to find you your next president and CEO. So DHR Global is, global's in the word, we are a global firm. We have over 150 consultants across the globe, and we work in a variety of different spaces. We are a generalist firm, and we believe that gives us a breadth of experience and contacts and connections that will really help you broaden the net and include Reno and Nevada locals also in the search. I have been doing search in Nevada since 2004. I've brought executives, I've found hidden executives in the marketplace that were not known to my clients at the time, but they were either in Reno or in Las Vegas, depending on where we were doing the search. And I know that is important to you. But it's a team effort here. I would be a geographic expert in that sense, having brought talent to the market. My colleague Heather, who I'm assuming is on, I can't see up there who's on, but anyway, Heather is in our CEO and board practice. So she works in CEO searches and board searches. And then my colleague Jessica, who is in DC, is in our communications, marketing, and PR practice. So we would bring our expertise, but also the expertise of the entire firm. So we have people, I am part of the hospitality group. I'm not the only person in the hospitality group. We have people in the nonprofit sector, again, CEO and board, retail. This would span, our search would span across all industries and also include people with GMO backgrounds. We have no hands off in that space. So it's wide open territory for us to go out there and contact people in that space. So I think those are some of the things that are important for what we do as a global firm. But I don't want you, do not think that because we're a global firm, you guys are small to us, every client is important to us. We partner with our clients. It is a little bit of a boutique inside of this large firm, and the resources we have will be able to allow us to really cover the marketplace. So I think those are some key important takeaways from our presentation, from our RFP. The RSTP, you have the presentation. Is there anything you guys want to know that I can answer? I'm trying to find out. Can you see who's up there, or Jessica or Heather up there? They're not on yet. They're not on yet, okay. Because I want them to introduce themselves. I will go ahead and tell you just a little bit more about my background. I started in search in 1998. To admit it's been 25 years that I've been in the search profession. I started out in industry with Allied Signal Aerospace and worked on government contracts with the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, doing actually video production, which I think find the irony in that I'm not putting a video up, but my background was in doing public affairs on a government contract in the government. And then I went to law school, and then after running an ethics program for the aerospace division, ended up in search, and that's what I've been doing for 25 years. I admittedly focused on legal search and was with a legal search firm boutique, but I came to DHR recently in order to expand and be able to help bring other talent and find talent in the state. I worked with lawyers for 25 years, so I kind of know what I'm doing when you're interviewing people, because if you interview lawyers all the time, you have to pick up the skills of really getting the information out of them. And I say that as a lawyer myself. So any particular things you want to hear about or ask about that I can answer for you?
Andrea, so on your packet, your timeline,
Yes.
your goal for the whole process is 12 weeks. Can you kind of tell us, is that realistic? I know there's other factors that come into play, and obviously our meeting schedule and what you need from us, but is 12 weeks a pretty good, I mean, and other work that you've done too,
Yes.
reasonable?
Yes, it's a very reasonable timeline. All things, out of our hands, after we find the candidates and present the top candidates to you, it's a little bit out of our hands. We will be there to help you shepherd and, interact with the candidates, but your meetings, your timelines, who has to do the interviews here kind of plays a role after the 6 to 9 week period. But it is reasonable. Our average close rate is just over 90+ days. So it's a very reasonable time frame.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Ferrasa?
Yeah, I had several questions. I was looking at your proposal, and I saw that the relevant experience that you had shared with the board in your proposal, none of them had convention authorities or DMOs. How much experience do you guys have in that field? And give me some examples where you have And we're even a different structure than a DMO because we're a public body subject to the open meeting law. What experience do you have in that regard?
So as a firm, my understanding is we haven't specifically done a DMO search. But as I said, we've done it across all spectrums. And so it's about a CEO search to us, right? That's why we have somebody from our CEO on board practice. It's about finding the right CEO and leader for the organization. You know, we have a strong hospitality practice, so we have people that are connected. Again, I wish Jessica was on. She's already talked to some people in the Reno space a little bit. She knows some people that have even referred to her some names already in Reno that are tangentially related to DMO. And we have a very strong research team that, as we said, with no hands off, we'll be able to contact everybody in the space. Jessica on the team, you know, has the PR and marketing background. She's done some things with those kinds of organizations. I'm not going to sit here and tell you we do DMO. That is not a specialty for us, but it is something we know we can do with the broad base and the strong research support that we have.
And then another question, even on the ones you referenced, have you done any public body searches? Because it's very different than the private sector.
Fair enough. Back long time ago, we were doing a city attorney search at my old firm. It is very different. We've done a lot of university at DHR. We've done a lot of university work, athletic director type roles, things like that. So it's another kind of quasi situation for public universities. So we have experience on the team as a whole, experience in the organization as a whole doing somewhat similar things.
And what about in the gaming sector?
I've done a lot in the gaming sector. I've worked on here, the IGT is listed. I've done work with Wynn. I've done work with Caesars, prior Caesars, and Aristocrat, and a lot of gaming work.
And then the other thing in your proposal, and I guess when we went through this with the airport, the actual search process, one of the things I think that has been lacking with the RSCVA is engaging our great employees who work for the organization. And I really didn't see that in part of your structure here, and part of the proposal, getting their feedback as we search for our new CEO.
That is part of the initial kickoff. I mean, we would want to talk to people in the organization. I think it's just more broadly the early stages when we initiate and we contact with the board and everybody, but that's key and important. And anybody that's going to be working with this person is going to be important. And I think the staff is important, the board is important. I mean, we are going to do fact finding. This is what, when I say we do a personal service, it's not like we're going to tell you this is what you need. We're going to find out from you what you want and then talk about what we can do to find you what you want based on all parameters that we discover in that discovery phase.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay. Other questions?
Chair.
Yes, Mr. Schwager.
Andrew, thank you. I'm assuming, is there a stage where if selected, we sit down with you and you're obviously going to need a job description is an understatement, but the framework, compensation, all of that, correct?
Yes.
And I'm assuming because with your compensation, you're based off of a percentage of the first year of this position, and it's 33%?
33% is our standard fee. Yes.
So I'm assuming you're assuming of what the package is. I mean, you must have some knowledge of where we're at.
But we know where Charles was, we know, the CEO before that, we've done some research in the space of what the guy, the person in Kansas City gets paid and Nashville. And so we have an idea of where this is. We're not thinking it's, the CEO position at GM or anything. We know what the compensation is.
Right. Well, but also it's open, it could shift. I mean, where the board sees going forward or. I'm assuming you're gonna help give input to
Yeah.
that.
Yes, absolutely. And part of that is in the stage of talking to candidates, we're gonna find out where their compensation is, what their expectations are. So that is part of our service as, you know, as consultants, for you. So you'll know that where everybody is that we're talking to.
Okay,
Thank you.
Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. I'm wondering what your philosophy or what your firm's philosophy is about recruiting people who may be deputies or VPs, who, you know, may be ready to step into that next level of their career versus recruiting people who are already, you know, very seasoned, and is there a balance there? And I've just noticed different firms from, you know, the times I've done recruitment in organizations that they have different philosophies on that.
Our philosophy is all should be included. Anybody that's qualified, if it's a step up for them or a move for them, and it could be a move for them for a variety of reasons, right? It could be that they want to get west, their families out here. It would be both. Our philosophy is to really cover the market, find the most qualified candidate. If it's a deputy or if it's somebody already in the seat. We have an emerging leaders practice, so we've been identifying emerging leaders all the time. It's part of our day in and day out. So does that answer your question? Like, we're not going to rule out somebody that's a deputy just because they're a deputy, but we're not gonna, we're gonna look at current sitting people too.
Sure, I have a follow-up.
Yeah,
And on that, I think, you know, ensuring that you are in contact, so you have an emerging leaders program, which is great. So you have relationships with many people who may not be looking. I know this last recruitment we did in Tumwa, we found that you have to actively tell people you want this job, essentially, because there's many people who are maybe they're not actively looking. I don't know if the market is still that way, but I'm just curious that, you know, those relationships are built with your organization, and that's something you look at.
Yes, absolutely. That's what we're gonna uncover, turn over rocks and uncover people that wouldn't even know that this is happening, and that and explain to them why they should consider it for their, because of the job itself and what it benefits to them.
Thank you.
So Jessica is on now, so I wanted to see if maybe she can at least introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her background and what she's done in the communications PR marketing space.
okay, and then we'll come to you, Shannon, for a question. Go ahead, Jessica, welcome.
Yes, and my apologies, I think there's a delay on the YouTube video versus this, but I've been on the whole time. So I feel like I've learned a lot about you all as individuals and what it's going to take to find this person. But for some background, I have 20 years of executive search experience. The first 15 years I spent in-house in PR agencies, recruiting executives for 2 global PR agencies. I then went to a boutique executive search firm where I led recruitment for chief communications officers, chief marketing officers, and CEOs for PR agencies and marketing companies. And then I recently joined DHR as the managing partner leading the corporate affairs and communications executive search function. So lots of experience with brand marketing, lots of experience across travel, tourism, hospitality. I wanted to answer the question that was asked about, do we look at emerging leaders? Do we look at, who are we looking at for this role? And what we really like to do is sit down and put together a strategy. And Andrea's heard me say this multiple times, but I like to paint the corners. So we're going to look at all of the CEOs from other DMOs, and sure, that's table stakes. We'll look at all of those people. We'll also then maybe look at CCOs, chief communications officers, and CMOs in the travel and hospitality space. Then maybe we'll look at people who are diehard Reno, but have diverse experience that could still be relevant. And then we'll look at CEOs also or leaders from those other industries that are adjacent. And then by showing you those 4 different profiles and those 4 different types of candidates, we can hone in on what the bullseye is for what you're looking for. Because from what I've heard, there are varying opinions about what's important here. And I think together we need to navigate to the point of the top candidate by showing you all different types of profiles. And that's what DHR provides. DHR provides a global network with reach and resources that Korn Ferry has, but then we operate like a boutique firm where we're deeply involved in every step of the process and have all of these relationships ourselves.
Thank you. Shannon, do you have a question?
Are we paying 33% for someone who applies internally?
Yes, whatever fee we land on it would be paid no matter the source of the candidate, and what's important to us is to partner. I've been doing this a long time, and when you have people going in different directions, and some people are doing this over here, and it ultimately takes longer, and the result, even if it's the same, it takes a longer time to get there. And we want to put them through the same screening process. You want to compare apples and apples, and being a partner, that almost sets up a competitive situation with our client, and we really are about partnering with our client.
I would agree with the partnership and streamlining the process and not being against each other and having people going in different directions. I would agree with all that. However, one of the biggest benefits in a recruitment firm is kind of their Rolodex, their network of people who they know, who they can contact, people that we would have never thought of. So I would just throw this out to the board. Maybe we should consider having that percentage be lower if somebody does apply internally that the recruitment firm does not find on their own. Just throwing that out there.
One thing I would say is part of our job is to get this out there. So if it's just applying, we really have to push back on that. What I have done in the past is what we would call a carve out. If when we sign this contract, you say, here are 3 people that we know that we want in the process, then we can talk about maybe discounting the final fee. But for people that just apply, like if we're doing our job, everybody needs to know about this job. And, you know, I've been dealing with candidates for a long time. Like they hear, oh, I'm gonna apply, I'm more likely to get the job, and that sets that situation up. So as a compromise, if you have particular names that you're like, we want these people included, and you know when we sign that contract, we're open to something like that.
Got it. Thank you.
Other questions? Anyone else? Good. Okay.
Well, and in closing, again, thank you for this opportunity. I'm not sure how this all works. Like, I know you can't, I always say, you know, follow up if you have questions, but I think it all has to be done in this open forum. But, you know, we are proud that we also are, you know, one of Forbes' top search firms, and we've twice been voted best places to work, Inc.'s best places to work. So I think that goes to culture, and that's also very important to us. We want to work with clients that understand that culture is important and that fit is important, that people, you know, working together is really important. And again, that's why we want to partner. And we know we can do a great job for you. Find something maybe a little out of the box, broaden the scope, and we'd love to work with you.
Thank you, Andrea. Appreciate it. Okay. And our second our fee group is coming from Ms. Tina Winter, manager partner of Winter Partners. And she is here with for. I'll let you both introduce yourself for the record. Thank you. Thanks. Appreciate that. For how we get it up on the screen.
Mike or Chris, if you guys can come out and help, please.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. I am Tina Winter. I am managing partner and co-founder of Winter Partners. Thank you, Madam Chair and the Board of Directors for the Reno Spark CVA for the opportunity to share some additional information with you about our firm, our experience, qualifications, as well as our interest in assisting you with this important hiring need. Joining me today from our team is Dennis Tracy. He is our destination marketing and tourism partner. So we want to share just a little bit more information outside of the proposal that an RFP that we had submitted. So a little bit more about Winter Partners. Okay, sorry about that. We're established in 2017 and we have a headquarters in St. Petersburg, Florida. It is another destination that is rooted in the visitor economy. My co-founder and I spent several decades with global executive search firms, and we have seen many different styles of executing executive search. We saw best practices in recruiting and identifying and evaluating candidates. And we built a firm that was armed with the foundation of that deep executive search experience. And we set out to build a more effective, high-touch approach with both candidates and clients. We combined that with a team of subject matter expert partners from industry. Those partners have been leaders in industry. They know the struggles that are faced by today's leaders and also those candidates who are evaluating new opportunities. Today, we have a team of subject matter experts from 16 different industries. Clients like yourselves, busy boards of directors, are interested to have a trusted resource to help facilitate a proven search process as you're going through this transition. A firm that's going to be unrelenting in identifying and attracting and evaluating talent in a competitive landscape. It's important for you to have a firm who can tell your story to candidates who may or may not know you, candidates that might be local, candidates that are from industry, and those that may have a compelling value proposition to be the leader of your organization. Candidates want to be valued for their investment of time. It will take time and attention, and we found respecting their time to give them support and presenting the opportunity here with information, data, facts, and an understanding of what the opportunity for them is going to look like at Reno Sparks. And that includes both positive and negative. Our experienced team for this particular assignment would include myself and co-founder Stephen Oberhofer, who provide 4 decades of executive search experience. We also have a dedicated resource for diversity, equity, and inclusion, Martina Mastay-DeRuthi. She also has 25 years of recruiting experience. Layered in, we also have Ronnie Bryant, who is a 30-year veteran of economic development. And to be clear, tourism is part of your economic development landscape here, and your partners are also your economic development leaders in the industry. And finally, we have Dennis Tracy, our destination marketing and tourism partner, and I'll let him tell a little bit about his experience.
Thanks, Tina, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Madam Chair, for inviting us to join your meeting today. I just want to share some of my life experiences in the industry. I am pretty much a hospitality professional lifer. I started out in the hotel industry. I was trained by Westin Hotels. I grew up in the Westin Hotel of operations. I started in operations and moved into the sales department. I come from Cincinnati, and I had a once in a lifetime opportunity to open an attraction, a major tourist attraction in a historic building in Cincinnati. And so I left the hotel business. I still kind of consider myself a hotel guy, but I left the hotel business and I went to an attraction and opened that. I was the first employee hired. I was there for 10 years and we did a number of, I sort of ran the place like an attraction like a hotel, because we did hundreds of special events every year. And it also exposed me to the tour and travel market. That's where I first started working with the tour and travel market, NTA, the ABAs, those sort of things that I know are important to your business mix. My goal was always to go to the DMO world. I'd always worked with the Cincinnati Convention Visitors Bureau. I finally transitioned to the DMO world. And incidentally, when I was at the Cincinnati CDB, we went through 5 CEOs in 5 years. So I kind of feel some of the pain that you may be experiencing here. I handled national sales with the Cincinnati. I handled citywide conventions as well as part of their administration team. I was recruited to go to a DMO that you're familiar with. It's the Little Rock Convention Visitors Bureau. They operate in a very similar system. As a matter of fact, sitting here today, I was having deja vu all over again because they operate in a very similar system. We reported to the Advertising and Promotions Commission. We collected the tax dollars. They're funded by the occupancy tax as well as a food tax there. That's a little bit different. But I learned a lot there and had a great experience there because they had a large budget, still do. It's where I did a lot of board work at the regional, state, local level. I got very involved with Destinations International. I obtained my certification there, my certified destination management executive degree there. And I did a lot of things. We had an awesome sales department there. They own and operate their own facilities, just like you do. They own and operate the convention center. They own the ground that the headquarters hotel sits under. They own parking garages. They own an amazing, beautiful theater that they just remodeled. But it's a very similar setup. The CEO that recruited me to Little Rock then went to Florida. I went with him. Things didn't pan out quite so well. So he left very quickly. That's when I soon joined Tina and her team. I've been working with Tina and her team for 5 years, and I'll tell you, it's allowed me to really expose my career for the passion that I have for the DMO industry. We look the excellence in hospitality and tourism, helping strong organizations find people is what we're all about. And I've told Tina time and again, the process that we go through in our system is just awesome. Just to further explain my passion for the industry, my vocation has also turned into my avocation. Because of my job, I've traveled to all 50 states, much of Canada. I've now done 70 countries and all 7 continents. So I'm still an avid traveler, and I just try to learn a little bit every day about traveling places. Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. So the engagement team that you see on the team, these will be the individuals that are talking with the candidates. We are a firm that does not hand off to junior recruiters to make initial calls and qualifications. This is a well-oiled machine that we have a track record of success in working together and completing searches.
And as part of our experiences, I've seen both sides of the equation. I've been a candidate with other search firms. I've used other search firms to bring me candidates. I feel like our process that Tina's going to describe is very special. The information that we glean from these candidates, it's exhaustive. I mean, it's amazing at how much information we present to you. So basically, it's like you're opening a diary and reading about this person and you get a pretty good feel for the individual immediately. Explain further that this is an executive to executive search. We have, let me step on your toes here.
Yeah.
We have at least 3 of our team talk to each player to build a portfolio on each candidate. And it's amazing the amount of information that we can provide to you.
So when Dennis said deja vu all over again, probably one of our candidate presentations is about as big as your preparation materials for the board meeting today, because it will be a uniform process that we go through. Dennis mentioned the multi-layered interview process that we take people through. It's because each of us has our own unique individual experiences that we come to the table for those conversations. So he will listen for different things than what I will, and vice versa. And so there's really a lot of information that we collect for you, and then we decide that that's telling the candidates value proposition for becoming your next leader. We also ask them to go through a written self-assessment and reflection on their experiences, their leadership style, and what they feel has contributed to their success and even some failures. So that uniform process turns into a lot of information along with their resume or CV that we'll submit for your review. Really setting the table for the search foundation. This is where we come together and we make some decisions on what you're looking for. We listen. We do a lot of listening while you help us with a lot of information that you'll provide that will help us as we go to the marketplace. What we like to do is set an initial timeline. And this is what we will be driving to. In our proposal, we had proposed finishing the search, getting to the offer stage within 80 days. And it does become a little bit fluid based on schedules and things like that, but we start there and drive to that and set milestones along the way. But first is discovery. We want to get to know you. We want to get to know the organization, past, present, and your hopes for the future. We'll talk with staff to get their feedback as well. It's important to know what their perceptions are. And then we go further into the marketplace and talk with your stakeholders, those that you're serving in the community. Sometimes you don't have that feedback on a regular basis, and we want to be able to listen to them so we can help the next leader be successful. There are a lot of facets here. There are a lot of assets as well. Dennis, maybe you want to talk about some of the things we saw?
Yeah, we've already hit the ground running. We started early yesterday morning, and we visited all of your attractions. And I like to just kind of go in and chat up the people on the floor. And we talked to people at the convention center. And once I got the guy talking, he was so proud of the fact, we just did the women's basketball, we just did this, we just did that. He's telling me all about it. We went to the equestrian center, which former horse guy, it blew me away. The place was amazing. We were talking today to Trent. It was every facility was so clean and top notch. We went to the event center. The guy that was watering the trees said, "Come on in, we'll show you around." We went to the bowling center. Eric was sitting at the front desk, and he's like, "Eric, come on in." He showed us around. We talked to the meeting planner. Who was running the meeting or running the USBC tournament. And we just got a real good feel for your facilities. We visited a number of your hotels, your casino properties. I feel like we've got a head start on the process.
Much like what we talked about, what we would do with the candidate materials, we do the same thing with the discovery session. So we're going to synthesize that data down and really build this marketing strategy for our search efforts. It includes developing a recruitment brochure that's a marketing document, and we'll lean on your assets within your own team to help us do that and have a compelling story. What we want it to look like is really an extension of your brand. So when it goes to the marketplace, we have the story down, and also the material, the collateral that we build is also going to be telling that story and branding in the same effort. So how do we get to all of those great candidates that are out in the marketplace? We're going to build the candidate universe based on the criteria that we set forth in what you're looking for in an ideal candidate. And we'll give you that feedback from the staff, from the stakeholders out in the community. And there are no preconceived notions here. We're coming in with a couple of candidates that are stuck in our back pocket that we've been looking for a place for them to land. Everything comes with new research, and we're going to marry that with all of the connections that Dennis has made over the years, our long list of networks and industry associations that we are a part of. We do have proprietary databases, but you will see people come from every spectrum of the candidate universe. We will look at that emerging leader sector of talent. We'll look at seasoned professionals. Again, looking at people local, looking at people that are deep in your industry, maybe people who have stepped out, want to come back in, and then also ones that may be in an adjacent industry, like economic development, for example. So bringing all of that together, we want to help you get to that timeline we're managing to. What we have proposed is to have 50 initially qualified and interested candidates within 30 days. We're working from that list. concurrently to continue our evaluation. By day 45, we would do our candidate presentation where you have 6 to 10 of the best and the brightest that we've identified who are interested in this destination and committed. By day 60, we would work to the finalist interview stage with an in-person multi-layered evaluation process with your group. What we do to get there is provide tools, the facilitation. This takes a lot of organizing, and we want to make sure that everybody has a great experience. At the end of the day, there's only going to be one person that's selected, but we're going to touch multiple people. Even with that list of 50 that are interested and identified, we're probably going to touch about 250 in order to get to that list of 50. So what we can guarantee to everybody else that does not get the president and CEO position is that they are going to have a great experience with us. They're going to feel valued for their time, and they're also going to walk away just a little bit better because they're going to know more about your destination. We're also working on the due diligence with each of those candidates while we're listening to them and understanding their background, their motivations for looking at a new position. We also want to dig underneath. We want to mitigate your risk for bringing somebody in that we didn't do all of the background information on. So we will do traditional background checks. Credit, criminal, driving, the whole gamut. We also do reference checks. You want to talk a little bit about that?
One of my favorite things to do, because by the time we've reached that point, I mean, we're a part of your team by now, but we also respect our candidates and we want them to have a good experience, like Tina said. But I love reaching out to their references because they're all gung ho and they want to help this person get the position. And it's really kind of fun to what their input can be in terms of what they can add to the whole equation.
Absolutely. Also, in today's environment, we do social media and online footprint checks as well. Again, just trying to mitigate risk on your behalf. We get back to the finalist interview. We help you with deliberation based on not only your gut feelings, but we also put some data-driven resources to help factor in along with that gut. We'll also take you through that decision-making process, the offer negotiations, and then develop an onboarding and transition. So in summary, and Dennis, feel free to jump in here. Our engagement team is unmatched as an executive search partner based on our team's depth of experience in industry, knowledge of the tourism industry. Dennis, just to touch on that with a finer point, did you talk about the CDME?
I didn't talk about CDME.
Okay.
And
Sorry.
we were talking this morning about, we were doing our secret handshake, part of the CDME experience. The CDME process with Destinations International is really an amazing thing. And I'm so proud that you have it. It has served me well over the years because it gives you such a resource to reach out to your colleagues. If you've got a question, if you've got a, what do you guys, we've got this crazy thing going on in our organization. What do you guys do? And it's amazing. I don't know how many total there are. 600 or something. It's not a huge universe, but it's growing, obviously.
Mini MBA course in the destination marketing arena for sure. But what that gives you is a team that understands the visitor economy, the economic impact that you're driving towards here. And we have a track record of recruitment success with organizations that are similar to yours as well. We do offer a 1-year guarantee for the purposes of this assignment. We also suggested a flat fee so that you could budget for the process. And we appreciate the opportunity to give you additional information about us, and we appreciate the consideration, and we would be proud to represent the Reno Convention Visitors Authority.
Thank you, Tina. I think Shannon has a question.
Yes, thank you. This question for any one of the companies, I apologize if it was mentioned already, I didn't hear it. Will there be any like personality profiles or personality assessments done as part of this process?
That's a great question. I'll answer if you want to also respond, Andrew. So we do offer several different assessments, and they're leadership assessments, and that can be another spectrum of data that you will have on each of the candidates.
Great, thank you.
And it's the same answer for us. We have a number of assessments. We have a leadership development program that they would go through. And we can decide amongst us if, you know, we get this assignment, what assessments are best for your organization.
Thank you.
And oh, by the way, you can't technically, I don't think, call them personality assessments. They're behaviors, workplace behavior assessments. We don't do personality assessments. We do behavior and leadership assessments.
Thank you for the preferred nomenclature.
Okay, was that all, Shannon?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Questions, Mr. Murdoch?
Question, maybe for both too. This is a convention authority, not a DMO. It's a tax-based authority.
Got it.
You know the difference.
Yes.
And there's stakeholders and there's tax collection here. Open meeting laws, et cetera, et cetera. It's kind of important to us. And, you know, we're looked at as a region and as long as you guys know that this is tourism, we're in the state of Nevada. What's the #1 tax driver in the state of Nevada? Amy? Anyway, just FYI, thank you for answering that question.
Yeah, it is a very similar composition to Little Rock. But you know, from the outside, we're looking.
Yeah, we again, it's because there's a lot of stakeholders and a lot of tax base that comes out of the stakeholders. We like to, you know, we have to be fed by heads and beds,
Absolutely.
butts and seats. And to me, it's the person or whoever it may be, has to be qualified in diversity and bringing people to a destination.
And great point. In our recent experience in the last year, we did work with the South Shore Convention and Visitors Authority in Indiana. The search chair was from the Hard Rock Casino. I can't remember what the other casino was there. So that gaming was a part of their landscape as well. We also worked with Casper, Wyoming, Visit Casper, and that's quasi-government with the Powers Board. They have a different structure, but it is a quasi-government agency too. The South Shore organization served 18 municipalities. So a lot of politics at play and a lot of stakeholders to serve. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So Tina, how long has your company is relatively new, but the years of experience that your team has is not. How long have you been together as Winter Partners?
We've been together since 2017. So 3 of us came from the global firm together with a dedicated interest in continuing to work together. More specifically, but we each came with other experience from other firms.
Thank you. Mr. Chetland.
Just 2 questions, and to carry on what Mr. Murdoch was saying, just making sure we understand through the outreach, as you are doing today, the interviews, the final interviews all happen in public. You know, from a candidate perspective, that's an important element that they're willing to step in front of that public environment and all of the spotlight that provides. So I think that's an important element. And then can you tell me, when did you do the Rapid City search? When was that completed?
Maybe 18 to 24 months ago.
So that was Brooke Kaufman.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
And because we placed Brooke, she asked us to review this. So we start.
Mr. Hill, did you have any?
They answered my questions up front. I'm trying to think of any other.
Okay. Any other questions?
Just to clarify, Tina, did you say when you start out, as you close kind of the gates after the recipients come in, you're hoping to have 50?
We want to have a list of 50 that we're working with that are initially qualified based on some criteria that we will set based on what we hear and interested. So interested according to the the process that they will go through an open forum. They're interested in Reno. And then we work to whittle that list down to 6 to 10 that will be presented to you to select from.
You know, Andrea had mentioned the possibility of doing carve outs as well, that it's not fully in common. Is that something you've done as well? Carve out on candidates that,
We would be willing to do that with some caveats, that it would be specific to internal candidates and limited to a certain number.
Any other questions? Jessica?
Yeah, just a couple questions. I think board member Murdoch touched on it. Have you guys, and I did see in the packet, the references, you had Visit Phoenix and some of these others in South Shore, Indiana. Are any of these boards that meet in a public setting and subjected to, you know, state statutes and regulations?
So that would be the South Shore Convention and Visitors Authority. And while the Casper organization is a quasi-government and under, I can't remember the powers board that they're under, I don't think they're specifically under the open records requirement.
Okay, have you done any of those? To me, that is an important factor because it seems that that is a huge difference between a DMO and a convention authority. People get here and they're, I think, the way we're agendized, the way we conduct our business, it's in a very public, transparent setting, and it's different than obviously how a DMO operates. So you have or have not placed in that type of setting?
We have. That South Shore example was an example of that open record situation. Dennis has worked in that environment in Little Rock. And then just an adjacent industry search that we did was for the downtown development district in New Orleans. That was also subject to open records as well. As well as with the candidates that were presented. They presented in a public forum.
Okay, and on that particular group, the South Shore, they're elected officials on that board?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kennedy.
Just so the board's clear what we're asking today, and so everybody's on the same page. So what the board is being asked to do is choose one of these two groups to move forward as the search firm. And then we'd ask you to authorize myself and the chair to work with the selected group to put together and negotiate a contract to come back to the board at the next meeting. And my experience has been with the search firms for this position particularly, Nevada is unique in our public records and our open meeting laws. And so a lot of times the proposals will change once we educate the search firms about our requirements and sort of best practices. And so by picking one and then allowing us to go put together a contract and bring it back to you, then that, you know, we can sort of adjust these processes as necessary. So I guess my recommendation is you know, select one of the two and then authorize us to put together a contract we'll bring back at a future meeting.
So the June, we'd be looking at the June meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Can I just, bring up something?
We can go ahead and sit down, I think. Thank you so much,
When
Tina
are we
and
gonna,
Dennis.
bring on new board members?
Excuse me?
When are we bringing on new board members?
Not until July, so it'll be the end of July.
July? Just only thinking, is that something we could bring that back then in July? Because I kind of do think that they should be at the table on figuring out how we move forward. And I would say this, I think we really need to think a little differently about how we do it, because we're kind of doing the same thing over and over and over again. What I've watched in the last decade of how we do things. And there's really never been the concrete discussion. And I think one of you, I don't remember who mentioned it, but you you brought in the local aspect, and I really, really appreciate that. I think that that's probably been missing. And Reno is really different. I mean, we're kind of like that place, we're gritty, we're fun, we're outdoorsy, we have like all these different dynamics. But also we'll go to a black tie event and wear jeans, right? Like, we just are like, it like that. And I just would like, and no disrespect to you, Madam Chair, but we really haven't had a conversation with the board of like what we want to see, where we want to go, even acknowledging, you know, Charles, and a lot of the good work you've done. There weren't a lot of times that we got along, you know that, but you did a lot of good things right.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that. And I'm just very direct. I can get very outspoken, but you did a lot of things right. But we've never had this conversation about what does it look like moving forward and where do we want to be? And maybe we should fix some of the things that we had challenges with in the past. And I think part of the issue, what I see too, is I get that everyone's like, oh, in the scheme of things, in the tourism industry, we pay X amount. And it's a pretty big pay base. And I think looking at that to say, what does that look like? Are we gonna dial that back? Because that's been controversial to some extent about how much we pay. And I guess for me, quite honestly, I get very nervous about waving this big carrot out there nationally. And when we do that, do we attract someone that's just coming for the carrot and not the community? And I just feel those are like very important conversations to be had. I don't know exactly how, you know, we got two. I know there's other search firms out there. And I do think it is important to have knowledge with what it looks like for a quasi-governmental board. I mean, Charles knows it's a tough thing.
Everything, you are everything. I mean, that's just part of being transparent, yeah.
Right, but if you don't know it, it could be challenging for someone that doesn't understand open meeting law, and there's just a lot of dynamic that goes to it. And so I think that that's important to have someone that understands that. Sounds like some of you do, or you do, which is good. And I love, by the way, that you went and you were visiting some of our staff, because really they are what make the organization fantastic. And I would say, could we please, at some point, please include them in the conversation? You guys have to work with them. We only have to attend a 3-hour board meeting once a month, and you guys will spend a couple hundred hours with this new CEO. I think it's important that the staff has part of that conversation. And I think that's also what's been missing. If we truly want to be an organization that builds a great culture, we will include the staff that makes it great. So that's all I would ask. And maybe it's just something to think about, how we have a bigger, broader conversation on what the vision is. If we're gonna, you know, start a whole new sort of new day at the RSCVA with new members, and as we move forward, I think we should look at what didn't work and what worked. And Charles would be the perfect person to say, here's what worked and here's what didn't work.
Well, as part of this, the discussions I've had with the chair is, you know, once my time here is done, I'm going to be providing her with a transition plan, which will hopefully help the next CEO. Things that are outstanding, things that can improve to help make this organization better and move forward. Whoever walks into the seat is not starting from scratch. Starting over. And that's my commitment.
I'd just love to hear from other board members what they want to see.
Well, and what I'm hearing from both presenters is that your first step is your initial step for both of you was to talk to the board, to the staff, to the stakeholders on what we're looking for. So that you all know before you really start hitting the ground running to find someone, you're getting that input from us. So you're getting, and every board member is going to be different, what our priority, every stakeholder, every executive staff or other staff is going to have different input for you that will help guide you and the input time for us too, on what each one of us with each of these firms have offered that today. And I appreciate that. I think that's critically important. I agree that we should be, where do we want to go next? Where do we, how can we do better? How can we not repeat? How can we find someone that we can keep here? That's my goal. Get some CEO that stays here. And that's what a search firm coming in here, as we're looking for the new person, what we're looking for and what our priorities are. And that is the time to have those conversations, and we will, is to for you all to know who's our ideal candidate, if there is one. You know, what is important to you and to each of us and to staff, so that we can look before we hire someone, that we can try the best we can to find what those priorities are. And I think a lot of them will be around the same, and some of them could be different. But moving forward, I think that's part of the process that they're proposing. And both firms have done that today, and I appreciate that, for sure. Mr. Murdoch.
It seemed like, we're 40 days away from turning over the board. And it might be good to just pause 30 days, come back and get the new board's feedback, because I think it's important that we don't saddle other people and we get some input from a different perspective. I really think it's a timeout phase for a minute. And then, your board, new member seats start, and then you start fresh, start over and figure out how we go down the road. I will mention that, yeah, you can wear jeans to a tuxedo event, but you also remember, we're millionaire makers in this city. We make millionaires. We need to talk about that a lot. People come out of here winners. So we're in the big game of entertainment. So anyway, it's so critical.
Some do.
It's mission critical that we do this right, and the new board probably, again, I'm all for not just, I like to pass the baton, but I'd also like to give the new board input, and maybe we changes the vision. Maybe there's some new things that we didn't know, or it might be better for us down the line. We're pausing 40 days. So, it's.
Well, and I would say, to answer that, today we're deciding on a firm to start, just on a search firm. The way
I don't
things,
think there was ever
the
a
way
conversation
things-
how this was going forward, so that's why we're trying to have this conversation now.
we've had this on our agenda from our last meetings. We approved that we were putting the RFP out, and we put the
Sure, but
RFP out.
there just
in
hasn't
April.
been any discussion.
And we didn't know if Charles would be here through October, and now he's not. He'll be here till the end of June. So our timeline is different than we thought, even when you guys got the RFP. When you got the RFP, you were still looking in October.
So you'll be here till the end of June, right?
He's here through fiscal year.
So he'll be here
And
till
the-
the end of June, so.
the
we can
offer-
put it on
excuse
the
me,
agenda.
madam.
Excuse me,
Can I finish?
excuse me, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So the search firm is what we're approving today. As the timing would have it, the vote for choosing a new CEO will happen the end of the summer. I mean, the timeline they're both giving us is looking at probably August, maybe. So we'll have the new board members will be here in July. They will actually be deciding, those of us that are still here, and the new members will be deciding on the new CEO, because 3 of you will be off and 3 new will be on. So the nature of this board being always rotating, it's kind of part of the animal of, knowing that people are coming and going. So the timing is different, but today is just the search firm. It's just the search firm. It's not the CEO. And there'll be input opportunities. Let me ask both of you, in July, when we have new board members on, those board members, because they're new, there'd be input from them also in the process. Will there be input from 3 new board members that come on from both of you?
Like that.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna.
Because they'll be still midstream, right?
I mean, if we started tomorrow and we knew the board members, they would still be included in part of the process. I think what you're talking about a lot is culture. And we hear that all the time with organizations, that they need the right fit for their culture. And perhaps that's what Madam Mayor is talking about. And we're very used to that.
Okay. Jessica.
Yeah, Madam Chair, and I guess I would have to agree with Mayor Sheeby on this. At the airport, it was so inclusive of every single board member. It's the only position that the board gets to hire. And I think it's only an issue of fairness that those board members have input on who's going to select this process. But not only that, just going through the board packet is what they want to see, and their input is absolutely critical on how this process lays out. I even think your quotes in the paper yesterday about not being rushed on this process. I think the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. I mean, the past history, I think that article, way before my time of going through CEOs on this board, I do think it's time to take a pause and do it right. Make sure get someone who's gonna stay here and lead the organization into the future. But I think not having input from potentially a third of the board, I personally think that's wrong. I think this is absolutely critical, and the selection of of who's going to do this and that search should be part of that piece.
So, Ms. Frossa, can I ask you with the airport, were all of your employees and stakeholders, as well as your board, a part of which search firm you used, or only of your selection of your CEO?
No, we interviewed all of the search firms. The board was very involved in that. We even had special meetings to do that. And it was important to us. And they went through, you know, I think a board member, Shannon, she had asked about that profile piece. That was very, very important. Corn Ferry had done that for the airport. So you had the board, they meshed the board with the employees and different stakeholders of how that matches in this search for a leader to come, those attributes. It was very interesting because the employees, the board, and the stakeholders, you see through that process that there was a lot of alignment there. But the selection of a recruiting firm, absolutely, all the board members were included in that.
Okay, well, and that's what we're doing today. So today is just a search firm. The bigger picture of stakeholders and staff and everyone else is the CEO, which I don't disagree with anybody. That's critically important if we're going to find the right person. We've got to have everybody's voice, everybody's input. Mr. Tennant.
Yeah, I think we're kind of talking about two different things. We're talking about a in-depth conversation with stakeholders and board members and staff, which I think would happen regardless of whichever firm we pick. And then there's a conversation about should a new board that's going to be sat in 45 days or so, you know, be engaged in the selection of the firm that helps us do that. And would the selection be any different than what we have in front of us today? So, you know, I struggle with that a little bit. I absolutely agree that we have to get full participation from everybody who's going to be engaged, and this process takes up to 90 days, which I think will happen. But I don't know if we wait another 45 days, will we have any different firms here having a discussion about the search side? So, you know, I kind of in my mind are separating those two. I'm prepared and willing to move forward with a search firm today, understanding that there is in-depth discussion and a process that's in place that will go well beyond July 1st of a new board put in. Because I don't disagree with that, the need to do that, but I just don't know if it'll be any different 45 days from now. And we'll have our two firms have done an excellent job presenting to us today, would be different. And a new board members coming on, would they have a different outcome that we may have today? Again, and just selecting a firm.
Okay. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. And I was before I came into the meeting thinking, oh, maybe we should put this off, knowing I've been told that we'll have some changeover on board. But I wanted to keep an open mind, and I think we had a firm that I feel like rises to the top and that can do the work for us. And my concern is I want to do this correctly, but I also understand that there isn't a prominent person as there was the last time we did a search to put as an interim. So the longer we take, the longer we have we don't know, there's a question mark on the interim, and so I feel like I'd like to get the training starting to go because I feel like that's important for the organization. So I'm ready to move forward too, but happy to hear from the rest of the board on that.
I do think Board Member Hill's point, I know she brought up on the special meeting this week, was it?
Yeah, it was
Yes, there was
Monday.
I think the interim discussion, and I know it's not agendized, but it is,
It's
we're
perfect.
connected
Yeah.
on this topic because I mean, I'm sensitive to the points where Shivi's made of just, I mean, there's a side of me going, do we hit pause for a second? I wish we didn't have the clock running, right, with Mr. Harris leading it down to Jim, but that is a reality. So then that really does start teeing up this discussion of, okay, as much as we like to say we're gonna be in place and whatever we just said in September, I probably even gonna have, I don't know, maybe you can. But I've also been through enough of these where I could see us sitting in November. You know, and does 15 more days, I don't know, and I'll be honest, just to be, I think both firms are capable of executing the plan. I don't want to say I'm overwhelmed, like absolutely, it's this group over that group. I do question with 2 bidding companies out of, how many did we go out to?
Can I ask a question?
Well, I think though,
Yeah, I think you're right.
how many RFPs?
Jose,
11.
So it was sent to 8 firms,
Okay,
and that was just the people that we sent it out to.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know, I'd be prepared to move forward, but I do think the interim discussion is, it's gonna be critical in this.
Yeah.
and that we are looking, just point of reference, that will be on the June, at our June meeting. I will already be putting that on the agenda for discussion, not today because we're not agendized. It's for us.
You wanna go?
No, I did, or I'll forget. I don't know anything going on in my head, as you know. I've already missed 4 meetings today.
Me too.
Sitting here. Ben, I might be comfortable, but I'm very hesitant. And one of the things, and you know, and I brought this up a couple of times very publicly, looking at the last contract, I had a lot of heartburn. It was a tough one to swallow. Everyone better take a big look. Have you compared the contracts to some of the last search firms that we have had? How they're different and how they're similar?
As far as the proposals we
Yeah.
received today,
Yeah. Because because if you don't have the contract now, and then you look at the contract and you're like, can't do this, we're already in bed. So how do we do that?
maybe I'm not following, which contract are you talking about?
Whatever, no, the search,
The search firm
with the
contract.
search firm. And there is an important component, which is the CEO contract. That is really important because you guys bring it to us. And I think, I don't know who brought it up, but someone brought up the internal candidate. I think it was you, Andy. Good idea. That, hey, if an internal candidate or whoever
Shannon.
brought it, that, you know, do you get paid for that? Because I have seen it. I'm pretty sure where we've already seen where you do get paid for that, and that person was already right there and ready to step in. They just happen to be the best person for the job. So I don't think that you should get paid for that candidate.
So I can answer your question, just, I don't have them in front of me, but just based off of memory. So the search before last, it was the third of the salary plus first year's bonus. The last search we did prior to Charles, the firm proposed the 1/3, I'm almost positive it was 1/3, and we went back and said we want a flat rate. And then it was 65 flat rate. It was an internal candidate, it was 52.5. So those are the last 2 searches we've done.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Mr. Murdoch.
And, you know, obviously Charles has left this with a great team here. We have a great team. I don't, you know, I like the plots. I've watched this because I've been in the gaming business for 43 years. Watched this time and time again. And it's time to do it right. Let's do it right. I don't know, what it takes, but the staff is very competent. And whether you put an intern in there or whatever, how we go, whatever we go, I just think it's important that other board that's gonna be there for a lot of years is inputted into this conversation. And there might be somebody that has a whole different view than 43-year veteran like me. They might see something that might be well for the community and for the region. So that's all. I'm just saying timelines really don't matter. I think you could really get there and you got a competent staff. If we didn't have all those things, then I'd be worried.
Yeah, I would think
Go ahead.
they could, I mean, you guys are very talented. I mean, Charles, you did a good job. So
They did a good job.
I would imagine that, I would think you guys could handle the ship. And not the Titanic, sorry. I got a lot of texts about that, Charlene. I'm sorry. A lot of people are like, what? I was like, why is my phone going crazy?
That's a story.
And I'm like, oh no. Charlene said the Titanic. But I do think, I mean, obviously, Charles, you would know, but I would think they don't need babysitters. You guys are like the best at what you do and how you do it. I just think we do, quite honestly, this organization has been through a lot of trauma. I've watched a lot of it, and it would be nice to have sort of a refresh and actually come back together with new board members and talk about where we want to go. Because I think that's right. The definition of crazy is doing the same thing over and over again, and we're going to do the same thing over and over again.
So maybe I can focus this and find us a way forward here. So back to sort of the board choices. So you can select the search firm today or not. That's the threshold question. You can have a motion to decline to award the RFP and direction of staff to bring it back at a future meeting. The board could vote and decide if there's votes to pause it or to move it forward. If you decide to move it forward, you can have a motion approving one of the firms or the other and vote on it and see if it passes, or we could do a vote, go around the table and
Okay.
whichever
I'll try.
firm has the most votes. So
Unless someone else wants to make a motion, I'll
Were
try
you ready for a motion?
to move it forward.
It
Commissioner
sounds
Hill.
like the mayor has a motion. I want to say one thing about hiring people, and I learned this from my mentor a long time ago, is can they do the job and will you like them while they're doing it? I think those are like two essential things, but I would add for this position in particular, do they love this region?
Yeah.
That's incredibly important to find someone who loves or what we all love, but it is an interesting and unique place as well. So anyway, just keeping that, however this vote goes.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to move us forward, and if it passes, it passes. If it doesn't, then it doesn't. Someone else will make a motion, or I'll make it again to get us to where you want to go.
Okay.
I would like to make a motion to hold off on recruiting firms until we have the new board members, because I do think it's super important to get their feedback and what they want to see. I know you feel differently about that, but I think it's an opportunity to kind of start fresh. And Commissioner Hill is now here. I think the majority of the board is going to turn over. And I think that's important that they're part of the process. We haven't had this conversation of let's do a reset. What does that look like? We've made a lot of mistakes in the past. I think let's avoid them, but also let's build some camaraderie, because we've had some serious issues. Some of the biggest issues I have ever seen since I've been on this board this last year. And that's just situational. That's nothing like anyone, it's just sort of out of circumstance. It wasn't anything that any of us created. I'm talking about COVID and things like those things out of our control. So it would be nice to have a breather. So I'd like to pause until we have the new board members and then decide on a selection process or a search committee or a search firm.
Okay, I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'm having a second for clarification. So do you want to go back out, or are you saying we bring these?
I don't think we need to go back out, but I think
Okay.
we should check the temperature of our new board member.
Tell us legally how that works with the RFP.
So this is a
You've already
professional
issued it.
service, so
Yeah.
we're outside of the competitive bidding requirements. So the board can hire whoever wants, wherever it wants.
Okay, that's good.
So we wouldn't necessarily have to issue another RFP.
No,
We
But
wouldn't
they
have
would-
to, but we could, and if you've got additional responses, you could consider them. We're
That's
really,
not my
we're outside of.
goal. Okay.
That is not my goal. My goal is like, let's take a breather, new people coming in. As your vice chair, I would like there to be some camaraderie, some synergy. I think we've been missing that.
Is there, so was that a second?
Yeah, I seconded and I understand the
Okay.
clarification.
And, in any conversation, I would say we're talking 9 weeks. Just looked at my calendar, 9 weeks until our July board meeting when we have new board members. So once we do 9 weeks, then we hire a search firm and we need to negotiate a contract. Give me your timeline on. We would move forward with a contract that has to come back again for approval from the board. So we're pushing it another month.
I mean, I get a contract back to you in a week to 10 days, but it's when your next meeting is what you have.
In the next meeting, or we have to have a special meeting to approve a contract. Following the 9 week, we'd be looking, 2 weeks after Mr. Chapman.
And this is just clear, which board members come off? Can I ask that question? I just don't.
Member Keel, member Srazza,
Member Silver.
and then member Silver. Airport.
All right, I give you a motion. Let's see if it stands and let's see, or. if it
Okay, there's a
dies.
motion and a second, and I have discussion now. Did you want to amend your motion before we vote, or?
To amend it to what?
Okay, no, I didn't know.
For
if
the
you were
question,
Yes.
we have a
Ms. Rosa?
motion, second, call for the question.
Okay. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? I'm opposed. Am I the only one?
Do we want to do a roll call? I think it's a little bit.
Yeah.
So those of us that are coming off, we still are voting on this because I just want to make
Yes.
sure it's not like there's a, okay.
Yes.
I mean, so I don't know, it's a tough position because I'm basically voting that I don't care to be involved, but if I say, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, it's a tough. I completely agree that the new board members need to be involved. I 100% agree. I'm just trying to figure out, it just puts, I feel like it puts me in an awkward position. That's all.
Well, and I guess the point to add to that, Shannon, is that we're asking brand new board members who just walked in the door to sit down
That's who we are.
and choose your search.
We have a
firm.
motion and a
Pros and cons on
second.
both sides, For
What-
sure.
What's the vote?
You know what, our attorney's asking us, he called for Lisa to do a roll call vote, so let's do that for right now. Lisa?
Chair Bidey,
No.
Mayor Sheedy,
Yes.
Mr. Chapman,
Yes.
Ms. Keel,
I'm pondering this. I apologize. It's, you know what I mean? I don't feel strongly either way. It's just, it's a tough spot. So
You can go neutral. I'm just kidding. I don't think we can here. We're not the legislature. We're not the legislature.
yeah, I mean, if there's no other, I guess the only other, there would be, if there's another motion, it's just the opposite, right? The other motion would be to just,
No. Two more.
to proceed right now, right?
Which one we select?
Yeah, it's fine. I'll say yes. Doesn't matter.
Commissioner Hill,
Yeah.
Mr. Murdoch,
Yes.
Ms. Frazza,
Yes.
Mr. Esquada.
Yes.
The motion passes.
Okay, so 7-1
7-1.
with one missing. Okay. Okay, thank you all for coming. I'm sorry you came all the way here and we were not able to make a decision today, but we will be in touch with both of you. And I really appreciate your time and your efforts. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to E4, review discussion Possible action regarding the United States Bowling Congress proposal to adjust the women's championship future schedule at the National Bowling Stadium. Who's presenting this?
Madam Chair, can we do a disclosure, please?
Excuse me?
I just wanted to do a disclosure.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm just gonna disclose that I do work for Caesars Entertainment, Inc. They're one of the sponsors of the bowlers, but there's no financial interest in this contract that we're doing today.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rosa. Mr. Murdoch? Mr. Murdoch, same disclosure. Lisa, you can just repeat that twice. Okay, Mr. Lurgan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'd like to provide a quick overview and context on USBC. The United States Bowling Congress has hosted tournaments in Reno since 1977. The National Bowling Stadium became the home for USBC and opened in 1995. When the Open or Women's Championships are in Reno, they are the largest room night producing conventions in our region. From 2012 through 2021, there have been 9 Open Women's Championships in Reno, Tahoe. These 9 tournaments have generated over 493,000 room nights, 3.5 million in room tax, over 224,000 bowlers to the region, and have an economic impact of over $445 million. The 2023 Open Championship that is currently in Reno through July will bring an estimated 50,000 bowlers to our region and generate approximately 80,000 room nights. Shortly after receiving USB's request to adjust the Women's Championship dates, RSCVA staff held in-person meetings with several hotel sales leaders to discuss USB's proposal, and there was a unified support to accept the request to adjust the dates for the Women's Championships. All parties believe that announcing this shift in tournament dates as soon as possible will be beneficial to registration efforts for the 2024 Women's Championships. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay. So the decision today is to approve staff's recommendation on the amendment of moving 2 of the years, replacing them with 2 subsequent years for the bowlers to be here.
That is correct.
Okay.
Moving the 2025 tournament to 2028, and 2030 Women's Championships in 2033.
Is there any the context of the penalty that we?
So the chair asked about the context of the penalty. So our agreement with USBC provides if they don't bring the listed tournaments, there's liquidated damages provision, $1 million for the women's tournament, $2 million for the Open Championship. That doesn't really come into play here because we're amending the agreement. So we're agreeing that they can change these dates. So the $1 million that penalty never comes due. That penalty would come due if we refuse to do this and they still refuse to hold the tournament, then we'd be talking about that penalty. But the way we're amending it today, that penalty is not in play.
We're not losing anything.
Same number of events.
One of the biggest conventions that we bring to this.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Move approval per staff recommendation.
Okay, I have a motion.
Andy.
Motion to approve.
I love Andy.
A second by Commissioner Hill. Do I have any other discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to E5, 2023-24 Special Events Partnership Funding Recommendation Award Allocations. We're being asked to approve the funding allocation for Special Events Fund Program not to exceed $500,000. Hi. Natasha.
Hi, I know it's been a long day, so thank you for all being here with me for this final piece of the agenda today. For the record, Tasha Holloway, I'm the Senior Marketing Events Manager for Reno Tahoe. Today, as the Madam Chair said, we're looking to discuss and look for approval for the 23-24 Special Event Marketing Sponsorship Program. A quick overview, although I know we've all been discussing this very in depth over the last year or two. It is the Special Event Marketing Sponsorship Program. That name was solidified based on conversations with the Board of Directors and subcommittee meetings we had, just to clarify exactly what the use of this funding was for, marketing initiatives. The goals of the current program include assisting our events in their marketing efforts, especially as it pertains to driving room nights. We want to help the smaller events reach their full potential. And of course, we want to help the larger events implement new initiatives to stay relevant and to keep growing. The panel, which consists of Reno Tahoe managers and executive staff, so we have members from our sports sales team, we have the marketing department, and of course our CEO. We all meet and discuss and look at a set of criteria when we're discussing these events. There's a very long list of criteria we use for considerations, but a few that I wanted to point out today. Of course, the ability to drive out of market attendees to the event and beyond. So we understand a lot of the smaller guys coming in, or maybe not initially driving a lot of room nights, they might focus more locally just because they need to build up their event. But we as the panel can see that changing long term. The uniqueness of an event, of course, we need to make sure it's competitive. It's not necessarily competing with other things in other cities that are very similar. Uniqueness is very important, and we can say we have a lot of really fantastic unique events. Positive perception changing for the destination too, of course. So they're not just driving room nights, this is a long-term goal. They're changing perceptions to continue to show Reno Tahoe in a positive light, to therefore drive further visitation down the road. And then, of course, the use of funding dollars as it pertains to what they're asking for, the goals of our organization. That's really ultimately what we use to determine how much versus should we, shouldn't we, but what are they using those funds for? So we worked with a proposed $500,000 budget, which was just approved. So thank goodness that goes hand in hand. For the 23-24 fiscal year, we had 42 total applicants, which is indeed the biggest amount we've ever had apply, and will be the largest number that we've funded. 15 of the applicants were new to applying for funding, and 2 of those are brand new to the area. So you should have a list in your board packet of the allocation recommendations. I'm going to open it up to questions in there that you should be able to see that full list.
Can you give us, we have up to 500,000, but I'm not seeing a total of what you, because we usually hold some.
There's $76,000 is being told.
Okay. So the 76 is the additional.
Yeah, so you're talking 24.
I'll do the math.
Yes, so the 76, just to clarify too, that money is set aside, as we determined, I think 2 years ago, that we would actually hold the panel for a second time, hold the meeting for a second time. So that way, if we do have any brand new events coming in within the cycle, we can discuss that. It's also there for those events that are taking place in the spring. So for example, an event that's applying this year for their 24 event in May hasn't even taken place this year yet. So those funds are set aside so that way we can have that open discussion if they, something really big happened this year that they feel could change what their needs would be for 2024.
Okay, and I have one more question on 39 North Pole Village, got no funding this year. What did we give them last year?
Oh, they have actually never applied. So that was the first application from them. And reason being, we discussed it's such a local event. We didn't see the uniqueness associated with it. Now, if some things change in the future, and I will reach out to Angela directly as well to discuss, this certainly doesn't mean, it doesn't mean they won't qualify for the future, but as it sits now and as their application sits, it felt more locally based. We didn't feel that there would be much visitation. We did also see that the city of Sparks was a huge supporter, and they do have funding there too. So we do take those into consideration.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Hill.
Thank you. I have a quick question on your events on the list. Do all these events charge admission or some sort of participation fee? If, maybe admission's free, but you have to participate to be in the River Festival, or do you know what I'm saying? Do they all have some sort of fee structure? Not to put you on the spot for all of them. But...
No, I wouldn't say so. I mean, when we're looking at this, obviously a lot of these events are free. So I wouldn't say, well, I mean, I guess you could say there's maybe some entry for the vendor side.
Okay, no, not that. But so there are free events within this. Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Many of them are, and we take that into consideration too. So it's obviously harder to determine room nights when you're free versus a ticketed event. So that's
Right.
part of the conversation. We also include participants in addition to attendees. So you might have, for example, our equestrian events, a lot of times are very participant driven. So we see that driving room nights maybe more than the attendees coming through. I know that wasn't your question, but just to add to that point too.
Thank you.
Mr. Chapman, did you have a question?
I do, just on one item, and I had some extensive conversation with Charles and the team here on this, so I'm just gonna bring it up. There were 3 events that were not funded. One of them was from the Incline Village, Crystal Bay area, and it's our July 4th Sky Show. And just to clarify, I am a part of that coalition, but it's a broader coalition. We're not the only person at the table, but and I understand the marketing grant, and I support staff's kind of thought on that it could be a slippery slope if we start granting marketing funds that aren't being used for marketing, and I get that. So a couple things I would just say. One, events are different depending on what area of our jurisdiction we are talking about. An event in Incline Village in Crystal Bay is a much different event than an event that is down here, either at the Stead Airport or the Stead Air Base over there, or downtown Reno, or even Spark. So I think one opportunity we may have in the future is to kind of reassess this particular grant process, and it's as opposed to a special event marketing grant, maybe it's a special event grant with some caveats. With that said, I think the effort that our region has put together to be at the tip of the spear at this environmental and sustainable effort, which I know the RSCVA is part of the Lake Tahoe, and I know Ben sits on that group for us. But we have really got to the point where we have to start talking the talk and walking the walk of what we are trying to do to protect the Lake Tahoe region. With that, our group in 2019 did produce the pyrotechnic fireworks for the 4th of July. We were off in 20 and 21. Last year, we came back and produced the first and largest drone show in Tahoe for the 4th of July, flying 200 drones. So my question would be, you know, if the funding isn't available here, as we thought this might be the route to go, could there be another avenue that we can consider with this board to help us up there celebrating the 4th of July in an environmentally and sustainable way? We have the support of the Washington County Sheriff with us, and they're on our team. Ryan Saunders, the North Tahoe Fire Protection Chief, is at our table and is very supportive of this. And what we saw in last year's drone show was a very inclusive community event. Doesn't mean it was just for residents, because we had visitors there as well. But one thing we don't do on the 4th of July is go shout out in either the Sacramento Bay Area, Reno, whatever market, LA market, like, hey, come to the drone show, because we don't necessarily want, you know, 10,000 more people there. We just want a great event to celebrate where we're at. So I ask and recognize that we weren't funded here. Is there another way? I know there's the finance and administration budget that I think Courtney mentioned. I know that, you know, that's where potentially like the sponsorship for the air races would come out of. And maybe it's a different discussion. We could bring it back next month, but I just wanted to throw that out there. I'm in support of what this is. And I appreciate the conversations that we did have, but I would like the board to consider how can we help fund this. It's not a big number. We're talking about 620,000. We have to raise about 160,000 total for what will be, again, the largest drone show in Lake Tahoe. And and I would just end on, because our board was very committed to that and got this going with our partnership. We have now affected both the North Tahoe Business Association and the Tahoe City Downtown Association. They have moved away from pyrotechnic fireworks and have gone to a drone show. Our friends in South Lake Tahoe are still doing a pyrotechnic, but we're working on them to see if we can't get everybody to kind of think differently about how we acted there. But I just want to throw that out there. Thanks for the time.
Thank you. Mr. Brown. I knew you'd have your hand up.
Thank you. Sorry.
No, I know you, I was gonna just turn right next.
I just want to support Andy's thought here a little bit, in the fact that Tahoe hits max on room nights.
Right.
They're sold out. Reno still has a lot of not only the stakeholders, but also the ancillary, the Marriotts and the Hyatt Places and the airport. You know, there's a lot of other hotel rooms that contribute room tax that people will stay down here and go up the highway now. I mean, it's just part of the way it is. The region shrunk a little bit. And I think it's important that, you know, we do things like that and we look at this. Because, you know, I worked with you, Commissioner, many times on, you know, Italian Fest, it's standalone event now, brings 50,000 people to downtown Reno. We get all this, it's important, but I would like to, like, again, the importance of supporting what Andy's asking for. Those are the keys that drive people to this destination. There's gonna be one or two people that are gonna, what do you call it, paddleboard, some people are gonna gamble. So I think we gotta be everything to everybody, especially in our destination, because we aren't the biggest airport. We don't have the best air service. We gotta get people here. And this is another way. The other part of it is, I'd like to know on here, who brings room nights and who doesn't. It'd be nice to see where this money goes. And I understand we support the local market too. I get that. But I'd like to broke it down here. This doesn't tell me, I don't even know what the, you know, I know what offbeat music is, but it'd be nice to know a little more in depth on this. I've been doing special events for 30 years. I really look at a special event as something that evolves, the locals partake, and you develop room nights, big time. And so I would really like if you could somehow give me a report. I'd like to see what we get from Biggest Little Invitational and what room nights and then the film festival. This is more intel. This is, you know, it's a lot of money and it's important that we pick and make sure we're developing why we're in this region. And your money you're handing out is our tax dollars. So we want them to be replenished. That's all I'm thinking.
Mr. Hurst?
Yeah, if I could make a couple comments to Mr. Chapman's point. There's a lot of great events here, and this is not about whether it's worthwhile or not. The more people we can help, the better off we are as a destination. There's a couple of things here. This is based upon a marketing effort. I want to be very clear about that. These are marketing efforts that supplement our income to drive additional folks that are here. And to Mr. Chapman's point, it's not a matter of we don't think it's worthwhile why they didn't get money. If this is something the board wants, we should carve out money from a different part of this budget to be able to help them and maintain the integrity that Tasha and team has done in order to fund these groups. The moment that we start to fund things that are not marketing driven, you might as well just abolish the whole system. Because now you've corrupted the system and you're just throwing money at different things because people want that. So please honor the team that went through a lot of work to be able to do that. And if this is something important the board wants, then let's find it somewhere else to be able to do that. Second point is, when I do the board meetings, I only met with 4 board members pre-board. And we go through all these items, so all these questions are answered, so that when we get here, Tasha, how thick is that book? It's about this thick. And so we go through, it's qualified, there's room nights. We go through all that. And so by the time we get here, if we don't do that, we're starting from scratch. And I want to compliment you. You do a heck of a lot of work to the team, Christina and Ben, Shelley, who am I missing? Rhonda, who does this. We go through painstaking efforts to make sure that it lines up marketing wise, that there's integrity with this, that we're transparent. Honor that team that does that. You guys talk about how great of a team I have. Honor them when they go through that to be able to do that. And if you guys want to adjust it, let's find it in the budget somewhere else to be able to take care of that.
And I would say, if I can, Charles, I 100% agree. And after our conversation, I totally accept that and realize and want to make sure we are honoring the criterias for this part of it, which I recognize that. Nonetheless, I'm still going to ask, how do we figure out how to help what we're doing up there?
And if this board wants to take out our contingency that, that Courtney's carved out, then that's maybe something we look at.
Through tax revenues that are generated in Incline Crystal Bay coming back to help that community. But absolutely agree.
May I also chime in real quick too, just in response to that as well? Thank you, Charles, for saying that. Part of the process here is, you're absolutely right, room nights are a very, very big consideration. But what I do and what the team does to dig through is, what are they asking for the funds for? So I certainly don't want to blindly give anything out. We want to do our due diligence, right, to be fiscally responsible. So a lot of the time that it takes leading there is to determine, what are you asking for funds for? And it's not our place to dictate exactly how every dollar is spent, but we have to take into consideration, if you're doing the same thing year after year, although you bring in lots of room nights, that's not really the purpose of our program from my perspective.
Okay. Ms. Frost, do you have a question?
Just a
comment?
question, I may have missed it, too, is I didn't see like Hot August Nights on here. Or events like that, is that common? I thought they were part of this. But did they apply, or am I thinking we help them in different ways?
We do, you're exactly right. So both the Reno Rodeo and Hot August Nights, we actually fund more on an in-kind level with our facilities. So the amount that they receive there far surpasses what they would receive through this program. We didn't want to encourage double dipping, so that we work with them separately. That's why they don't go through this program.
Okay, thanks for the clarification. And then the other question I have is on I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought here. The other question is on the legacy events in particular. We had talked about the national air races and the is this the marketing? Is that what they were allocated, the 50,000?
So this, and a really quick address, Tony is here in the audience with us today. If there's any questions that I can't answer that he may be able to. The 50,000 that's listed here is the recommendation on the money they requested specifically through this marketing sponsorship. So this 50 would be in addition to the 150 that was approved previously through the board.
And Ms. Raza, if I can, this is Charles, if I can just kind of weigh in for a second. The air races did ask for 150. The committee met, and we met for a long time on this because we didn't want to shortchange the air races, but we also wanted to be responsible with what the board had allocated. So in total, with the 150 that's been allocated and what we are recommending on the 50, it would be a total of 200. If the board, for whatever reason, wants to improve that allocation closer to what has been asked for by the air races, there is that contingency money that's still there to do so. But we, as a committee, and what the committee made a recommendation is all of the marketing agenda items that will be negotiated as part of that larger fund will be fulfilled in that. And so we would be actually doing the same thing twice. But that being said, if the board wants to go a different direction, there are contingency funds to increase that back closer to the original ask that the air races did.
Yeah, and I do support what staff did, because then we would have to take money from different events. So I don't want to do that. So there's a lot of worthy events on here, and I thought that they had asked for 150, but so our total contribution is 200.
It's 200 if you adopt the list as it was submitted.
Correct, but that would be, is that our highest sponsorship of any event then?
Cash sponsorship, yes.
For this year, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay. And any other questions? I'm looking for a motion. Mr. Squaga.
I do want to take a moment though to just echo Charles's comments, and Tosh, thank you. I sat on that seat before in that group trying to divvy up the pie. It's not fun. Yeah, right. And I think it's a great plan. I think you've executed it well. I think there's the criteria in place. Andy, I'm sensitive. I'm open for hearing that pitch. I think it falls into a different category, but so I'm ready to make a motion to support E5 special event partnership funding and staff's recommendations for the allocation.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Squaga, second by Mr. Murdoch. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Would I speak to this at this item or for board member comments to ask for us to bring back the 4th of July event at our June meeting?
That would be the next.
Okay, all right.
June again.
Yeah, that June.
Next agenda item. Cool. Okay, perfect. Okay, I've got a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, board member announcements, reports, and updates. Commissioner Hunt.
Yes, thank you. Can we please bring back the Income Village Bay July 4th Sky Show request, and hoping staff can find an appropriate amount of money or appropriate pot of money for us to discuss at our next board meeting.
Okay.
We'd probably like to see some recommendations because we don't Is there a recommendation for?
I mean, of course, I'm gonna say 20, that's what they asked for, but.
That helps us,
I
in
know.
terms of guidance.
And maybe the finance committee is meeting before that, I don't know if that should go to them, but however y'all wanna do it, but I just wanna make sure, cause it's July 4th.
Right.
And,
It's around the
yeah,
corner.
meeting's on June, you know,
May 25th, right now.
yeah, so anyway, I'm just
And he's
trying
having
to.
his fundraising over here, so.
Yeah, he's sweating it, so, anyway,
Doing my best
Thank
for the
you.
community.
Okay, any other
We could do that. I mean,
comments or?
oh, actually, yes,
Announcements.
we're open it to board. I do think would Lisa help on this with the finance committee schedule? And we were just saying probably the week of, what is that?
June 5th.
5th?
Yeah, because next week's a holiday, it'll be short.
Mhm.
We're probably looking at the beginning of the 5th, 6th or 6th of June to do that.
Could you do a doodle poll?
Yeah.
Finance committee, that'd be awesome. Okay. Any other announcements?
Just one
That's right.
comment on, and this has to do with the final slide in the board packet, page 347. The Reno Sparks Convention Visitors Authority Transit Lodging Tax Collection and Statistics 9 months. I just think there's an error in the bottom, total taxable revenue. It shows Washoe A, and then that's excluding Incline Village at 44 million, and Washoe B, Incline Village at 692,000. I think those numbers are swap. So I just want to make that clarification that I believe there just is a,
Inversion,
Yeah.
I don't think Washoe, A has quite got to that level.
even surpassed.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's a little discrepancy.
I just want to clarify for the record.
Thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you. Okay, I'll close item F. Item G, comments from the floor by the public. Oh, sorry.
On the
Ms.
board
Frozen?
comments, just to follow up, I think Commissioner Hill had mentioned at our meeting on Monday, we really need time to discuss and have it actually agendized for action for an interim
that is-
CEO.
That will be on, Ms. Frossa, that will be on. I mentioned it a little bit earlier. I have planned to put it on the June meeting. It'll be on the agenda.
And I think
all
it should be broad enough, I guess, just because we haven't had this discussion, that it should be broad enough. Internal, external, person is interim. I think we are in crunch time, and I think it's got to be agendized broad enough to allow the different options. So.
Well, and I'm planning on it being an open discussion, whether we want an interim or not is one. Where that would come from, but I anticipate or would like to see it be a broad discussion, board discussion to make a decision on that. So yes, that's what we'll be doing.
And the board should also carve out a similar amount of time on that June 15th meeting. There are still heavy agenda items, including the destination master plan, other RFPs that we didn't get to today. So including these new items, it will be probably breakfast and lunch again. So
I
just.
thought it was gonna be a short. Well, it's gonna be shorter than this for sure. Okay. Mr. Murray.
You know, I think it's kind of mission critical too, that when we do sit the new board, that we bring, the Michael Ardetta sales team, and you show all the people around the country. We've never met all those people. We've met them. But it'd be nice for everybody in the board to meet the team all over the USA. I think that's very critical, and I think to have the polling expert here also, it's critical. I know you can't do it in June, got that, but it might be nice to get everybody indoctrinated with what really the sales mission is, what they're, I know a lot of people, I just don't know a lot of people.
Welcome back, Ms. Silver.
I'm sorry. Legislature.
Hey, we're on our third agenda.
Yeah.
So if you could, please add that to the,
Okay.
yeah.
Well, for future, when we get the new board on, or the new
It could be
members,
July,
new members,
indoctrination.
yeah, we can consider that for
Thank
something
you.
in July. Okay. Oh. Didn't I ask? Oh, I started to do public comment and then we still have board comments. Do we have any public comments?
None at this time, thank you.
Thank you so much. I will close that. We are adjourned. Thank you all. Long meeting.